And welcome back to Kearney Live. We've got Scott Cole and Terry Welk from the Clay County Bicentennial Commission. And Scott, welcome to the show. Good seeing you.
Well, thank you very much.
It is my pleasure. It's good seeing you here. Brian got your level squared away there. There we go. And you and I met just, moments ago, it seems. And, right? And
it was a pleasure.
And indeed, the pleasure was all on this side of the table. Jim just dropping a line there from a funny movie. So, right. So here, let's just get right into this. You were part of the Bicentennial Commission that was, I guess, in large part responsible then for getting the time capsule.
Well,
unearthed, right?
It all started out by my association with the Clay County Archives and Historical Library. The Bicentennial Commission was looking for assistance in developing a plan for unveiling the old time capsule. So the archive stepped up with a committee. I was the chair of that committee, and that led to an appointment on the Bicentennial Commission and to eventually unveiling the time capsule.
And so you did. Now, the downside of it, and we're not trying to cast any sort of negative light on this thing, are we, Jim?
Can I ask a question before you get into that?
Well, I think you've already started. You might as well finish that.
That's
right.
the way I interrupt.
Yes.
No, Jim.
So
well done, Scott.
As we all know, the time capsule was opened after 50 years, correct?
That's correct.
Was that date identified to open it at 50 years by the people who put it there, or did the commission do that?
No, that was the original plan in 1972, and as a matter of fact, they appointed a committee of youngsters who were to oversee its opening 50 years later. Unfortunately, they were scattered to the wind, were not involved in the unveiling of it.
Or they were just irresponsible and didn't show up.
Well, you know.
When you say scattered to the wind, you mean like dead?
No.
This is possible.
Well, like we.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, in a couple of cases, yes.
Yeah,
But,
okay. Yeah.
They had identified 12 or so youngsters, but most of them had moved on or expressed no interest in being involved again.
These irresponsible people.
Yeah.
Well, but the upshot of it all is that there was this wonderful time capsule that has been buried up next to the Clay County Courthouse, right? Or
next to the World War I soldier monument right there.
And we all were anticipating that this was going to be a very exciting unearthing, and we were to find out later that the contents were in an old milk can, as we knew, and they tried to seal the can as best they could with tar. And as it turned out, well, I'll let you take it from there, Scott.
Well, there's a little more to the story than that.
Of course there is.
The Bicentennial Commission originally wanted to make a public event out of the unveiling. I strongly advised against that, feeling that at the very least we were going to end up with water intruding into the milk can. As it turned out, they did a little too good a job of putting this together in 1972. The vault they created for the milk can, very solid, but it didn't have drainage. And the county employees thought it would be a good idea to coat the milk can with a liquid tar to preserve the contents. Unfortunately, by the time rainwater, groundwater got in there, it mixed with that liquid tar and something very close to crude oil.
Wow.
That was the final result.
And we see that on our
for
screen
those,
right there.
For those of you who are watching on KMO TV, you can actually see
it's a mess.
When they opened it up. And, well, I will say this. It wasn't like it was an Al Capone moment with Geraldo, because at least there was something in it.
Indeed.
So you got that. But can you...
Well,
video you have?
We could have had an Al Capone moment if this had been a public unveiling. Our first attempt to even get the capstone off, just using manpower, went nowhere. So Trib Johnson, a very generous man, donated his services from Johnson Granite Supply, North Kansas City. They came in with a crane a week later, pulled the 800-pound capstone off of this, and the milk can being full of crude oil, and artifacts. That also required that we use a crane to get it out. And at that point, it was taken down to the Clay County Archives, where we actually got into it, and it was obviously a moment of big disappointment.
Well, folks are probably wanting to know what was salvaged, and I believe you brought some things along. So there were some things salvaged.
Yeah, pretty much everything I could carry under one arm.
Okay.
We do have a number of photos of the event here, but that's
right.
Let's get to the artifacts here.
Okay, so can you hold that up and kind of in front of the, so your camera's
okay.
right here. There you go.
Yeah. A dollar bill. We had a few random coins. I didn't bring those in. There was nothing special about that. One newspaper article, which Tom Hake at the time was a newspaper delivery boy for the Liberty Tribune, and it was nice to salvage a little bit of that. A couple of photos. You just see shadow images. We don't have any idea.
Let me try to hold that up in front of my camera while you talk.
Yeah, if you would, and I can just talk about what you've got as you go through there. While you're doing that, I'll show you this. Probably one of the best artifacts.
So that's
there's the photos.
The photos you were talking about before. Let me get the studio light out of it.
Well, they've sort of sepia toned, I think, over the ages, but they were black and white photographs. So, which is not uncommon.
Most of what we pulled out of though were little packets of photographs. We're talking about the days before Ziploc baggies.
Yeah.
They were the simple fold-over baggies.
Okay.
So people would put photos in there. Unfortunately, the acid water just bleached the photos out. We pulled them out, and they were just white.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate, but there are some interesting things in this notebook. If folks wanted to see this stuff, would there be a place that they could have a look?
Yes, it's on display every day at the Clay County Museum and Historical Society, which is on Main Street, right on the Liberty Square.
Yeah, good to know.
They are open almost every day from about 9 to 4.
Outstanding. And this that you're about to show us was also in the leaky milk can.
Yes, this was a lot of the at the time in 1972. A lot of the social groups and clubs.
Hold that up, just kind of right in front of your face, just for a second there. Just right, yeah.
Or do you want me to use?
There you go.
We're doing everybody a favor now.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's good enough. All right, now tell us about it.
Well, it's a group of. It was the Wednesday Bridge Club agreed that they would wear period dress during the sesquicentennial celebration or be subject to fines. And it has a nice little tie to me because my wife's grandmother is listed on there as well as many of her friends that my wife knew. So that
how cool. Yes. And I see all the signatures on there. Yes.
They are.
That is very cool. And I mean, the odds that particular document survived is, seems interesting. Yeah.
We don't know why.
Yeah.
It was just in a plastic bag, and for some reason it stayed relatively clean.
It wasn't down at the bottom.
Well, we had to piece it back together.
Oh, I
as
see.
You
Okay.
can see that. We also pulled out an American flag, which I have folded up over here, but it is just completely inundated in tar. We assume either the VFW or American Legion placed that, but we didn't have any records that came out.
I see.
One other neat item we pulled out was a complete leather mason's apron. But by the time we pulled it out, it was like wet cardboard, and it came to pieces.
Oh, what a shame! Yeah.
But inside that mason's apron was one of the sesquicentennial commemorative coins. They created one in bronze and one in silver, and sold a limited number in 1972. But really pleased to see one of those come.
Yes, very cool. It's neat to see anything that you can. Anything else what stood out to you? I guess would be my question.
Well, more than anything else, the disappointment.
Yeah.
But beyond that, obviously, my own ties to the document from the Wednesday Bridge Club was nice. But there have been some lessons learned. There is going to be a time capsule scheduled to be open in 2072.
Oh my, yeah.
But it's not going to be buried. It's going to be on open display, probably in the county courthouse somewhere. Though that's to be decided, as well as how we go about collecting artifacts for the new time capsule.
Right. I think one of the interesting things that as we reflected on this before the show, was that you and I are contemporaries, and we look back 50 years ago, and we were both teenagers, and you can look back on the history. Jim had mentioned earlier, and I think he was right, that 50 years, by some perspectives, is not very long at all. And he's absolutely right. But I think as a portion of our lives at the ages that we are now, it's a significant portion in our lives. And so we can look back on any number of things that over the course of 50 years have shifted just immensely.
Well, one thing that seems ironic to me, so many different forms of communication have arisen in the last 50 years. One of the hardest parts of being part of the Bicentennial Commission is, how do you get the word out to everybody? Well, you've got 100 or more different, mediums to choose from. Facebook, Instagram, all this, I'm not even up on it. In 1972, you had community newspapers that everybody read. I think that made the celebration a lot more cohesive back then, certainly easier to get the word out to everybody. But that really, that was the stark difference that I noticed in between the 50-year span there.
I think there's an interesting dynamic, too, in that if you take a time capsule that was done, let's say, in the 1800s or something like that, and you look at it now, it has a great deal of interest because there isn't a lot of photographic evidence from that time. There surely isn't video. But when you take things of now, everybody has a camera. Everybody has a video recorder, where in the 70s, I don't even know.
No,
the video camera hadn't even, if it was like the size of a room.
Right, and you sure couldn't put it in your
because
pocket.
Because I know in TV news we were still using film.
Oh, yeah,
right.
Everybody was still shooting Super 8.
So the time capsule, it almost, I don't know, it seems like the whole dynamic would change now because there's so much. Obviously, you don't want to open a time capsule and go, well, yeah, I've got 20 of those right here, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where, a time if we were to find today a time capsule from the 1800s, I think that would be phenomenal, because you're always finding stuff that we don't have.
Well, I think what happened a lot of the 1972 time capsule, based on the newspaper reports I read, not from what we pulled out, you had families that were communicating to their own families 50 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's what we're going to encourage with the new one. It gets a lot easier, when you can throw a mountain of information on a flash drive and it only takes up a little bit of space.
Yeah.
And I'm going to encourage going that way.
You got to be careful with that, because remember, we all thought the VHS tape was the end-all be-all, and now nobody has them. Or cassette tapes, or the Beatles' White Album was on that little laser disc that we had, and nobody uses those anymore.
I would be willing to bet that someone's 8-year-old grandson will be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yes.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And the other thing is, it's kind of funny, because we were talking about this before we went on the air. There are a lot of time capsules out there, I'm sure, all over the country, or world for that matter, that people have just simply forgotten about. Because I know we talked about our high school class buried one, and then this actually prompted a bunch of us to go, where is it?
Nobody knows.
And nobody remembers where we put it. So
somebody is bound to know.
Well,
we just don't know where they are. Yeah. First, you got to find the person that knows. So yeah,
as was said earlier, that person's probably gone in the wind.
Yeah. It is exciting, though. I mean, to just put a little perspective on it, 1972, if I'm not mistaken, there was a playoff game at the old Municipal Stadium that the Chiefs. It was the longest ever, the longest played football game. against Miami Dolphins.
Wasn't that Christmas of 1971?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And I guess in one of the at the end, one of the few missed field goals by Jan Stenerud, I guess helped push the game into overtime, or it was whatever. The Chiefs lost that game. Unfortunately,
Yes.
it was an AFC championship. That was a year before what we're talking about here, when that time capsule was buried. That game was played, and just 2 years before that, the Chiefs had won their very first Super Bowl. So, from a sports standpoint, it does put it in some kind of perspective, and I think the things like this, events like this, buried time capsules, will kind of force you to look back and sort of measure in your own way how much things have changed, in our own lifetime.
No, that's very true. One thing I noticed too is going back to the 1972 celebration, the generation that put that together and made everything happen. These were people in their 30s and 40s. This time around, you're primarily got a lot of people in their 50s and 60s and even 70s putting this together.
Yes.
Despite all the different means of communication we have, it's hard to get people out to events these days. Sadly so.
That's true. I know what you're saying. I mean, people are busy, and my grandpa used to say you can't get three men to dig a ditch, and I thought, what's Grandpa mean? Mom? What is he talking about? No, I know. I mean, just people are busy.
Well, and to give you a little more perspective on this, in the 1972 celebration, you had more than 500 participants and volunteers. I'm talking about participants and volunteers alone. Try raising a crowd of 500 to anything nowadays.
I know. I follow you. Yeah, I think people are, by and large, they're just so busy.
They are busy. Plus, 5 minutes on Facebook or whatever, and a lot of people can learn all they want to know.
You know what else happened in 1972? I forgot about that.
Do tell.
KCI opened.
How about that?
November 21st, 1972.
Yes.
At a cost of $250 million for that whole airport.
Unbelievable. We appreciate you, Scott. Thanks for being with us. All right, and we're going to get Terry Welk up here. She's going to talk about more about this, the Bicentennial Commission's unearthing of the tar-covered milk can, which has produced a handful of items that most of which are really interesting, and unfortunately, the ones that survived are very interesting. The ones that didn't, we don't know if they're interesting or not because they don't exist.
So the worst part is tomorrow I have to go see Stacy at an event. Well, I think you'll be there too. I know Brian will be, and now I got to listen to how great she is because he.
Well, I'm not sure where you're going with that.
I'm just saying, it's hard enough to deal with her greatness as it is. And now
you don't want to be overshadowed by Stacy's greatness because you're kind of a big deal.
That is absolutely
there you go.
Correct.
Of course,
But
yes.
I'm also trying to stall while.
Oh, I got you. I know because Terry's in here. Terry, are you ready for us?
I suppose.
You should. Well, let Brian switch over to you. Let's get you. Let's make sure that you've got a little bit of a sound check here, and we're going to do this on the fly. Look at you. Welcome to the show. That's Terry Welk.
Hello.
Hello yourself. Good seeing you here, and you're a part of this whole Bicentennial Commission. Tell us your perspective on the whole unveiling of this.
The unveiling of the time capsule was a huge effort for people like Scott, who really pitched in and helped us navigate through the whole event. His suggestion to, do it in advance was obviously wisdom.
Smart move. Yes. Yeah, from the looks of things.
But it was disappointing, and as far as the things not being in any kind of condition that could be preserved,
right?
Very well preserved.
Now, how did you get involved in the commission?
I got involved in the commission, and the last few years I've been pretty involved in just kind of local politics with Clay County. Mm-hmm. Not in politics, but just very active as far as like in the audit commission, which was, getting an audit of the county from the state auditor. So I was involved in that way.
Good
but
for you.
Also, I've lived in the county for most of my life, so not quite as long. I don't have the history that Scott's family does,
Yeah.
but have lived here since the early 60s.
Yeah.
So I got involved in it in that way. And one of the things that I'm involved in on the commission, not just the time capsule, was not really something I was terribly involved in, except just to be at the event and to promote our, we have a photo contest going on that's part of the Bicentennial celebration this year.
Yes, very cool.
And we have, I think, on the screen perhaps.
Yep, Brian's got
what's
it up
going
there.
on.
Yep.
Yeah. So the photo contest is sponsored by the Courier, or they're hosting it. The Courier Tribune is hosting the contest, and we are encouraging everyone to pick up their own clay at the Mid-Continent Public Library locations in Clay County. And they've been kind enough to allow us to have those items there that they can pick up, and I have one right here.
Okay.
And
so
these are things that we handed out at the time capsule event. So, really wanting it to be a family-focused type event, and also just to get people encouraged to go out and visit the historic sites in our county. And then on the back is, of course, the little QR code, so we're trying to be, up with, I guess, actually QR codes aren't really a thing or have come back.
They actually are.
because the pandemic, I think.
Well, there's a
brought it back.
resurgence. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so, but this was,
and they've been improved. Yeah.
they have, but this
Yes.
one, this works well. We've worked with the Courier Tribune to host the contest.
Okay, now I want to stop you because the
Yes.
clay, when you said you want people to pick up their own clay, you weren't saying literally come and scoop up with your hands the Clay County soil. We're not talking about that.
No,
This
it's-
little guy is hold that up, Jim, and there you go. The cartoon character, the icon his name is Clay.
His name is Clay, and
Right.
he was developed by our presiding commissioner, Jerry Nolte.
Who is a very talented artist, and Jerry and I went to high school together, and we sat in the same art class with
my.
with Barry Kennedy. Yes, back at Oak Park High School. Yes.
But Jerry designed clay for us, and we have had his unveiling was at the birthday party that started off in February this year. And everyone is encouraged to have their photos taken, submit them through the link that's accessible on the back through the QR code, or at the mycouriertribune.com and the Bicentennial contest.
So the strategy behind this is just to get as many people involved as possible.
Get people out and about,
Yes.
encourage family-friendly type events. There are prizes awarded every month now through the end of October. And then in October, we will have a grand prize of $200. So every month we're awarding 2 gift cards of $50. And
Very nice.
then at the end, it's a $200 grand prize.
So the grand prize for $200 would probably fill up my truck with gas, right?
Oh, perhaps,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the photos that we've had are with kids and their parents. So we're just wanting people to get out and see the different historic sites.
Yes, that is exciting.
Do you-
And go ahead, Jim.
When you take a picture with clay, is it supposed to be in Clay County?
Preferably. I mean, that's really the intent, was just to get people to, take him out and about when they're visiting different places in the county. It doesn't have to be a historic site. It could also be something you go up to the lake, you're at the golf course, you're at the library. We're trying to encourage tourism in Clay
Yeah.
County, which was one of the purposes of our commission.
So if I go swimming with this, will it hold up in the lake?
Well, you can sure give it a try.
I'll give it a whirl.
I would say you could double it as a fan. It reminds me of the old fans in the church pews.
And
you know?
that's actually the intent. Is
Yeah.
So we're passing them out this summer at different events.
Yes.
So people can stay cool, but also we just want people to know about all of the things about our county and get out and about.
Where would people go to find out historical places in Clay County?
Well, they are actually listed on the claycountymo.gov website,
There you go.
and for some of the events this summer have been held at those. I know the Atkins Johnson farm in Gladstone. I think their event ends on the 25th this month, but they've had several different bicentennial presentations throughout the summer.
Yes.
I know there's also something at the Ferris Farm coming up on June the 25th, where they're doing I think it's called a Picking on the Porch and art at the Ferris Farm. So just get people to get out and see these different sites, and you'll find clay there. So also just the The list of sites, though, as I mentioned, are on the claycountymo.gov website.
Right. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of them.
Yes, there
And
are.
in fact, I noticed too that on the Visit Kearney website, when we had Stacy in here a little while ago, they had there were photos on there, Brian, of some of the different historic places to visit, and so tons of opportunity to find your way around Clay County. And we talk about the 50-year can, the capsule milk can is what it was literally, but we're talking 200 years. That this county is celebrating a 200th anniversary, which is just, now that's a lot of time. And near as I can tell, nobody around here that's 200 years old. That's a long time. So, yeah. Brian says we're getting close to the end here. What else can you help tell us?
One
Yes.
other item I wanted to highlight is this weekend is the Juneteenth celebration. It's the 22nd annual for Clay County Juneteenth celebration. It kicks off on Friday evening at 6 p.m. on Main Street in Liberty. And then there's a parade involved, and it ends at Garrison School. Then the next day on Saturday, the celebration continues at 9 a.m., and it's a dedication of the Legacy Memorial at Fairview Cemetery. And there's a barbecue that follows.
How about
There's
that?
a barbecue
Yeah.
that follows. So
I love the sound of the barbecue. Yeah. Yeah.
So like to see people get out and participate in that event.
All right. Well, Terry, thank you for your hard work and all the work you've done for Clay County and being a part of the Bicentennial Commission. I know it's a neat thing.
Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week right here on Kearney Live.